And we are back on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK. The ticket online at WTKA.com. It's Thursday, a little bit after 9 o'clock, which means it is time for the MGoBlog Roundtable. We've got Seth Fisher, we've got Craig Ross, we've got Brian Cook. Sam will be joining us in just a moment. Guys, welcome back to the Roundtable. How are you? How's everybody doing?
Good.
I don't know. Brian seemed pretty cranky to me. I don't think he's going to talk today. That's what I'm thinking, or I'm afraid of that.
I'm talking
Okay.
right now. I'm talking
All
to
right.
your face, Craig.
Okay.
And Seth
Good.
is in mute mode. He'll get to us in just a moment. So we'll obviously a lot of basketball, maybe a little football. We'll get a little hockey in there as well. And of course, we will also get to the big event that's coming up on Saturday night at 8:30, the benefit for the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase. So looking forward to that as well. So fellas, the most recent taste in our mouth is not a good one. Before we can get to that one, though, you do have to go back to last weekend and go to take the Indiana win after the win over Iowa last Thursday night. And before we get to that, actually, to answer the question about is Sam internet connection to hold? As soon as he connects, he should be fine. His internet came back at like midnight or something last Thursday night. So we'll see how it goes. So fellas, it's been 3 games since you guys have last been on. The Iowa win, the Ohio State win, and then, of course, the game from the other night. So 2 wins and then the loss. So, Craig, why don't we start with you? Just your overall thoughts as the basketball team is heading into now the final 2 games of the regular season, 2 games against Michigan State. We have, obviously, a big game tonight, Sunday, but 3 games now under our belt since the last time we all talked.
Well, I thought the Iowa game was one of our better games of the season, for sure. Michigan held Iowa to 57 points. That's pretty incredible because that's a really good offensive team. Juwan and his staff decided to play Garza straight up. They didn't double him except, I think, once in the entire game, and I think that might have been an accident. And Garza was terrible. I mean, he was I think he had 16 points on 20 shot equivalents. Dickinson controlled him, and when Dickinson was out of the game, I felt Austin Davis and Brandon Johns did a good job against him also. I was surprised a bit that they didn't try and double him some at all, but it sure worked out, and it sure was good coaching. The most compelling part of this game to me, I don't know if you guys saw it, was Fran McCaffrey's post-game conference. It was quite impressive. He comes in and he's asked a question, what led to your offensive dysfunction? His answer was, there wasn't dysfunction. And the next question was, what did Wagner do? He drove the basket. And at that point, McCaffrey stands up and tries to get out of the press conference. And his SID pulls him back down into the chair. He answers a question about his son's sprained ankle and poor Jack Nungy, who I think is out for the season.
Yeah.
And then a guy asked him, well, what did Michigan do on you defensively? And he goes, I already answered that question. He stands up and leaves. I thought, now there's a press conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, I think what their media members were referencing, ironically enough, is they had 4 assists in the game. Isn't that what Michigan wound up having against Illinois?
Yeah,
and that game was over. So it's, you saw a team's offensive flow, Iowa's offensive flow, be completely disrupted. Michigan wouldn't leave their shooters and force their shooters to put it on the deck, and that's just not their game. I mean, they converted a few drives early in the game, but it was almost as if Michigan was saying, yeah, you guys can't do that all game. You guys, there's no way. And if we can play Luka Garza man to man, which they obviously could, we can stuff you at every other position, which Michigan did.
Yeah, and he did the same thing Kurt Dickinson did against Trace Jackson Davis in the next game. I think he goes 3 of 12. And, so that's a total of 8 buckets against 2 of the best posts in the league. And I think 4 of those buckets were against Austin Davis. So, he absolutely dominated those 2 matchups. And then you get to the Illinois game and that script flips because, Coburn isn't super efficient. He has a couple turnovers. He's 6 of 10 from the floor. But, Hunter Dickinson is 1 of 8. And the shots he's putting up aren't like shots where you're like, oh, he usually makes that. They're difficult hooks. They're heavily contested. He's not able to post up and get good shots out of it. And then Illinois ends up doing the same thing Michigan did to Iowa to Michigan. So they get a total of 7 threes up in this game. And I think they had 15 shots at the rim and 27 in the mid-range. So that's what Michigan does to teams. And if you look at Illinois' statistical profile, that's what they do as well. So they have a lot of drop coverage. They have Coburn in there. Just he's difficult to attack if you're a guard and you're coming downhill on a pick and roll. And Michigan kind of found out that they have some issues to work on. Now, the first time this happened against Minnesota, they worked on those issues and they resolved them. But there's definitely a formula here that I think Michigan needs to figure out how to combat.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on a lot on, as a matter of fact, on the podcast, and Tim McCormick pointed out a lot of the same things you just did, Brian. Namely, the number of threes they weren't able to take, and they were clearly, in the case of Isaiah Livers, for instance, gonna run them off the 3-point line, and they have the length and athleticism. I mean, he's better putting it on the deck, but he's not. He's not gonna cross you up and wicked first step kind of guy getting to the rim. It's why I would like to see the next time. Hopefully, they see this team again, because you talk about a delusional fan base. That's what made this game so much tougher to swallow, because those guys are who you had to lose it to. But I think Isaiah Livers has really developed his post game. Whether you're dribbling into post looks or setting up on the block in a game where Hunter is facing the movable object, so to speak. I think that's kind of a cancel out thing. I think Hunter did a great job when he wasn't in foul trouble. He did a great job on Kofi Coburn one-on-one, even if Kofi Coburn was doing the same thing to him, but they got nothing in the post at that point then. I think that other than Austin Davis, but he came in for Hunter. I think that Isaiah Livers can exploit a matchup like that. That's something I like to see next time they play.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, the solution is maybe putting Franz in more pick and roll, because he's your longest guy. He's the guy who's the most likely to be able to go at a guy like Coburn and drop coverage and actually get it up over him. But I think that Juwan will go back to the drawing board, and they'll have some ways to combat this that don't involve off the dribble mid-range jumpers, which is what a lot of Michigan shots were in this game. And they scored like a half point per possession on those. So it's not a great way to win. Yeah,
they really disrupted Mike Smith. Disrupted Mike Smith in this game.
And they were denying the perimeter, and Michigan, like, their offense is all these beautiful actions that result in open shots. But Illinois was denying so heavily that, by the time they were able to even get the ball to the point guard, there was 10 seconds on the clock, and you don't have time. And then you're kind of in this NBA mode where you get in a lot of isolation situations just because you have a short shot clock, and Michigan is not an isolation team.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I went back and watched briefly last night around midnight, scanned through the tape, which wasn't much fun. And I was trying to find one good thing about this game. And the only good thing I could find was, I think Hunter Dickinson's haircut is pretty good. I think I liked his haircut. Outside of that, I couldn't see
himself.
Yeah, I couldn't see a single thing. I mean, Brian's correct. We ended up playing one-on-one basketball, a lot of isolation basketball, which is not Michigan's game. We got just demolished on the boards, aside from anything else. I mean, I think they had 22 second chance points. We couldn't finish at the rim. We had Hunter airballing, and maybe had 2 air balls from 2 feet. We airballed free throws. Our drop coverage was a debacle. They managed to get to the rim twice or 3 times off of drop coverage. We got beat to the rim by their ball carriers at least a half a dozen times, which has been rare this season. So I don't know. It's hard to look at this game and see anything about this team that looked anything like what's happened all season.
Well, I mean, I felt that the defense was at least okay when Hunter Dickinson was in the game.
For
So
the
you
first
have
10 minutes. Yeah, it was
the
10
first
to 10.
15 minutes, and then he
15.
goes out with he
Okay.
had his second foul with like 5 minutes left, and that's when Illinois really starts scoring a bunch at the end of the
Yeah.
first half. They get a couple buckets to start, and then Dickinson gets his third foul on a loose ball foul away from the actual ball. What are we calling that for?
Yeah,
And then
especially given how the game was refereed. I mean, it was a functional wrestling match, and then they call that, and so
I mean, they just put 2 on Coburn. The difference
Yeah.
there is that Coburn's 2 were defending a post up and moving up into Dickinson and knocking him off his shot. That's a foul. Like
Yeah.
boxing out Georgi Bashanishvili for a ball that's nowhere near either of them is like, what are we doing here, DJ Carstensen? Supposedly good ref. But anyway, so they're down 8, and then Davis comes in, and then they're down 20 by the time Dickinson comes back in 5 minutes later.
Right.
So to me, if Dickinson is able to play 32 minutes instead of 22 minutes in this game, the defense seems fine, right? They're probably under a point per possession, and that should be enough to win if you can get any kind of offense. So I thought the defense is probably just a one-off. They hit some tough shots. Dickinson had some foul trouble, but the offense is something that they're going to have to look at, especially with teams that have really athletic guards that can top block and deny on the perimeter.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. That one call by Carstensen, did make a difference. Now Illinois just killed us, so you can't look to one call. But it was a key call. It's just a very frustrating game, and I'll probably try and watch the tape again. But
Why?
Well, you try and learn something. The one thing I did see is that later in the game, Michigan went to the old Judd Heathcote weave on the exterior, something that Michigan State has done for years and years, and they did get a couple of good looks out of that. It sort of minimized Illinois' ability to cut off the wing pass, and when they went to that weave, I mean, they got some at least good looks. But the truth is that when I went back and watched the game, Michigan was not getting good shots at all, and they forced a lot. The offense was sped up, it seemed, faster than what they were comfortable with. I mean, you have to give Brad Underwood and Illinois credit. They really did a job on Michigan, and in a way that I didn't think was very likely. So we'll see. I mean, Michigan State will be interesting because my guess is they're not going to do the same thing, but they're going to do some variations on the theme.
Well, I mean, if they try to single up Hunter Dickinson, that's only going to end one way with their greatest 6'8" guys.
Well, you know what they're going to do is what
they're going to hack him, but he's Coburn's a 57% free throw shooter, and Dickinson is 75. So they can hack them all they want. They're going to lose.
Well, that's what they're going to do. They're going to run four centers at Hunter and just brutalize him. And that's what's going to happen. And they're going to hope that the refs will, quote, want to even it out, and you'll see Hunter in foul trouble while he's just getting brutalized by four different guys. And because that's what MSU has been doing and they're playing better doing it. They're just saying, go out there, just shove and push and hold and grab on the interior, and fouls will even out one way or another, and we'll just run another guy at you. And since Lawyer's been hurt, they're a better team. I mean, that's just the fact. I mean, they're playing better basketball than they have been. And this game tonight's not a sitter, not by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't know how much you've watched MSU, but they are coming along.
I mean, I hate how the ref thing has to be brought up, but like MSU has been playing to the whistle more than any other team this year. And like, I don't know how to say it without sounding like a big Michigan homer. So the only game I can really talk about is Ohio State, right? Because if I think Ohio State didn't get a fair whistle in that game, that was not a fair whistle, right? Yeah. So and State, that's kind of what they do. They just they challenge you to call every single time, and eventually the refs are just gonna be like, I I can't whistle it all the time. It's just going to be a whistle show.
Yeah, I mean, they did beat Indiana by 6 points because Indiana shot 10% from three. So I don't feel that intimidated, honestly.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, Michigan State hasn't had a great year. I mean, but the sort of big picture of the season is Michigan. When we talked before the season, I think all of us felt that Michigan was, I felt at least, and I think this was pretty close, was Michigan was going to be fighting for like number 4 in the conference, 4 or 5. That's where we would be. And I felt Illinois was by far the best team, and that the only team that could compete with them was Michigan State. I mean, I admit that was, in retrospect, idiotic, I guess. But it seems right now at this point in time of the season, the teams that are playing at this last week, at least, it seem to be playing closest to their abilities are Illinois and Michigan State. Because I think they're actually.
Michigan State just lost to Maryland.
Yeah.
I've said closest to their abilities.
By the way.
Closest to their abilities, and they have been winning games in the last month.
You think they're playing closer to their abilities than Michigan?
Well, I wouldn't have.
He's way overrating one game.
Yeah,
he has the memory of a goldfish.
Man, you're one of those fans, Craig.
Come on, man.
I've been watching them the last month, and in terms of what they have, which is no point guard and no center, they're playing. I think the truth is, I think they're playing as close to their abilities as anybody.
Well, they have.
There you go. He's coach of the year.
Yeah.
He's had to play Rocket Watts finally because they were pulling that guy. They never let him get comfortable. Like, if you want to run a clinic and how not to get your point guard to feel comfortable in a new system, is what he's done with Rocket Watts this year. And then he pulled him again for Maryland. He didn't let him start the Maryland game either. So they've been starting AJ I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Hogard. Yeah. Yeah, and they're starting Foster Lair over him. And then Izzo made a comment this week that he thinks Jack Hoiberg's going to have to play a lot this weekend.
Oh, nonsense! That's just pure Izzo.
It seemed like to me that the biggest obstacle to Rocket Watts playing point guard, at least early in the season, was Rocket Watts. He didn't want to play it.
Obviously, that program has had.
Do you know Rocket Watts is shooting from 2 in Big Ten play?
Go ahead.
28%.
That stinks.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Yeah, I still think in the last month, or at least since the first Indiana game, and remember they did beat Illinois at home.
I know what you're doing. Ira's exactly right. Okay, I'm on with Craig. You are absolutely right, because we need to be talking about Tom Izzo as coach of the year. You are right. You are right. What Tom Izzo is accomplishing with this team. He looked at it and he said, "We don't have skill, but we can beat the hell out of teams."
This is big time athletics.
Bring out the football pads. Let's watch highlight videos of Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. I don't even know who those guys are. I just know they're fighting UFC style. Let's do that on the basketball floor. It worked against Illinois, right?
Well, that's exactly right, actually. I mean, and that's what my point is that this is a team that we thought was going to, or at least I thought was going to be pretty good, and then just didn't evaluate the fact that they didn't have a point guard or center. And so they were terrible, and Izzo's playing, and Izzo's doing this carousel, and the carousel gets worse and worse and worse. And then all of a sudden he says, "Okay, we're just going to beat people up." We're just going to beat people up. And they've won, 4 of their last 5, including Ohio State and Illinois. And Maryland somehow just killed them. But they just been beating people up. And I'm guessing that's what we're going to see tonight, too.
How does it go, Ira? Does it go, I can't get that from. Yeah, that one. Yeah,
I don't know how you say they don't have a center when they have a guy in this who's a freshman who is ranked higher than Hunter Dickinson.
Well, okay, look, you know that of all of us in this particular group, I'm the one who's least impressed with recruiting ratings, and I've said it over and over and over and over. is that I'm not a believer. And if you want to look at the Michigan team, which I think is a pretty good team, I actually went back and looked at their recruiting ratings. Eli, number 201. Mike Smith, not rated. Franz Wagner, 114. Isaiah Livers, 133. Austin Davis, 177. Brandon John, 70. And then they have two guys around 40, Sean D. and Hunter Dickinson. That doesn't sound like, I mean, that sounds like every team. That sounds like Northwestern in terms of about what they get in terms of recruiting evaluation. So
Matty Sissoko, top 50 player in the country.
yeah, exactly. And so
All right, so Franz's composite is off because he's a Euro. So that's one thing. If he had played in the United States, he definitely would have been a top 50 player. That's what everybody has said.
Hey, if my aunt has wheels, she'd be a trolley car. I mean, I'm just talking about what the ratings were. And
Okay,
not
so
what
Craig,
they should have
I'm
been.
just making fun of Matty Sissoko. I don't know why
All right,
you're
let's
recruiting.
okay. Listen, I am with you on the we need to be giving Tom Izzo more credit. I'm with you on that. But I'm struggling with your point about Michigan because I think Brian is spot on. I think we are exaggerating, to me. Not to say it wasn't important, that there aren't lessons to be learned from Illinois, but you're making them be what they were in 2 losses as opposed to what they were in 18 wins. Why are you overvaluing the 2 losses versus, undervaluing the 18 wins? I mean, you look at that game, but you just started out the segment talking about what a great job they did against Iowa. A team who blew out Ohio State at home.
They did do a great job against Iowa. I mean, phenomenal, and especially given that Garza had really beaten up on us last year. What did he score? 75 points or more in the 2 games against us. So, and that was against John Teskey, who I thought was a pretty good center, obviously.
No. That's a backtrack. Okay. I remember you saying the best center in the history of Michigan basketball. Is that right?
And I'll stay with that in his junior year. But yeah, so I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not saying this hasn't been a phenomenal year because I didn't think this team would be as good as it has been. I mean, and they've been phenomenal. The kids have been phenomenal. The coaching has been phenomenal.
So what do you think is going to happen?
But the Illinois game is really bothersome. If you're just losing games, I mean, missing shots, for example, I don't worry. But there was something about this game that was truly bothersome in this sort of abject, I don't want to say ineptitude, but how terrible the Michigan offense was and how inert they were even at finding looks. It's hard to put down. It's hard to put away for me. I'm sorry. You want a break, Ira, right?
All right, we'll get to a break.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out this mystery. Craig, you're an enigma, man. I sort of pick up what you're putting down most of the time, sort of, kind of. This time, you're losing me, dude. You're losing me. I think that this was a team that they did get punched in the mouth. They did not respond, anywhere close to adequately enough. And just my personal opinion, for a team that has responded at virtually every step this year, for it to happen in the sandwich game in 5 games in 9 days, to me, says a little something about legs finally catching up with them a little bit in ways that it caught up with other teams at other times this season. They're finally showing that they do have some, some human-like characteristics, some human-like traits on the basketball court. In addition to giving Illinois credit, they had a great game plan. They executed it to a T. And I'm sure those guys will say essentially they came in and punked Michigan. Give them credit. Hopefully you get them again. But this whole, there's something to be concerned and worried about. How about we let them play another game before we break out the concern?
That's all fair and logical and rational. I mean, that's all. I mean, that's rational talk. I'm talking sort of the back of my head or the front of my head, or just looking at this tape last night. I said, "Holy cow, this is."
Didn't you talk to Craig? Don't you guys talk during the week? You didn't give him.
No, he won't talk to me.
You didn't give him a counseling session, Brian, before the round table. Get him on point. This Craig is like, man. We're gonna get to a break. Come back on the other side. We'll see who Craig actually picks in these Michigan State games coming up here.
We're going to kick their asses. I don't know.
You got to get to a break. Back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTK the Ticket.
I'm gonna see if I can get my computer back on
the radio.
So I just had to restart my computer for some reason. It wasn't the network this time. Apologies. I don't know what it was.
I did too. I had a full crash. My whole computer crashed. Like the mic shut down
until it fails you.
Yeah. Is this sounding okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna see if I can get my computer going again. And if I can't, we'll just do this the rest of the show.
All right.
Yeah. No, you sound fine to me.
All right.
I don't know.
Can I? Brian Cook?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
What?
You were like, you were stagnant.
I thought you were frozen. You were so quiet and silent and not
Craig,
moving.
It's hard to get
what he's saying is just kind of go like this throughout the whole thing so he doesn't see you freeze up if you're not talking.
And I looked up and I was the only one moving. It's like, what the hell is going on, man? So anyway, yeah, I think they'll win this game. I fucking hope we see.
Kurt's a funny guy.
I hope we see Illinois again. You got to hear shit talk from Bishanisvili.
I don't want to see them again. They have a combination of stuff that is bad.
I mean, sometimes there are just teams, for whatever reason, you're gonna match up against, and sometimes there's going to be teams that you have difficulty matching up against. And I don't know, maybe.
I'm sorry. Play Hunter one-on-one. Do you have guards that can overwhelm Michigan's guards athletically?
Yeah.
Do you play a lot of drop coverage?
Well, and see, I think you got to change it up a little bit. While Hunter did a decent job one-on-one, I would have doubled him some.
I agree. Completely agree.
Per se. But I would.
He can't pass. He can't pass the ball.
Well,
he can't.
I guess I forgot.
He can't pass the ball, and he has no footwork. He can't pass the ball.
But doubling doesn't even matter for him because, like, if he gets it on the block, he's just gonna dunk it. Like,
he'll just try and
doubling is off
through.
one dribble. It's not gonna do anything, right? So he's a guy who just it's all about post position for him, and then if he's not in the spot where he can dunk it, you don't need to double him because he's not that effective with hooks and whatnot. I mean,
he doesn't. He has no hooks. He has no post moves. He just bulls his way to the basket, and he can't pass. He has no ability to get the ball out of the post.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that doubling him is not gonna do much, right? Because either he's in a spot where he's not very effective, or he's in a spot where
you take some of the pressure off of Hunter, and you may keep him out of foul trouble.
I agree.
And as you pointed out, that's the key in this game. When Hunter went to the bench, that's when the problems really accrued. And so I think this was a mistake. In my opinion,
maybe you turn him over. Maybe he gets into a bad look. But once that guy gets into his move, and I'm sure there are some analytics that say the guy he doesn't pass anyway. He gets into his move, he's going up for a shot. Double him when he puts it on the ground on the deck, and just not every time, but just as a one-off to kind of disrupt some of their flow on that end of the floor. Now, does that leave them somewhere? I gotta believe that the ineptitude on the glass was an anomaly, and have faith that they will be able to they would do a better job rebounding, even if they double them than they did in this game. Just to throw something different at them, because clearly on that end of the floor the other night, to Craig's point, I mean, Hunter felt extremely taxed. You constantly worrying about fouls, and he wound up getting wasn't his third foul on Bishanisvili? I mean, by that point, it's
yeah, that's what Brian said, and he's right.
Back on radio in 20 seconds, guys.
By that point, it's like, man, Hunter's head is,
no, that foul was absolute garbage. It's one of those loose ball fouls where it has no impact on the play, and it's dubious to begin with.
Yeah, you're right about that.
The trademark call of a terrible referee.
All right, guys, standing by for radio. We'll be back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider, Sports Talk 1050, WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb and the MGoBlog Roundtable crew. We have Brian Cook. We have Seth Fisher is back. And we have Craig Ross, who, like I said, he's a bit of an enigma. So on one hand, they're brilliant against Iowa, just unbelievable performance. And then they go and have a really good defensive effort at IU. But this Illinois game is just, it's a sign of the apocalypse as far as Michigan's postseason hopes are concerned. But they're going to kick the crap out of Michigan State. I can't figure you out, Craig. Because
I can't figure myself out rationally.
If you're concerned about the physicality of Illinois, how are you not concerned about this ultimate fighting championship that's going to take place in the post tonight with how many posts? They got like 6 post guys.
4.
Marble fouled out against Illinois. I think Hauser fouled out.
Yeah, Marble fouled out, and he also busted up Io DeSumu's face.
No, that was That was naughty. But he got thrown out of the game.
Yeah, he
did a hack of Kofi in that contest. Then there was another guy. Bingham had 4 fouls. They're going to try to beat the crap out of Hunter Dickinson in this game. So if you are so worried about that matchup with Illinois, how come that doesn't concern you tonight against Michigan State?
Well, Illinois, Kofi, it doesn't exist at Michigan State. First of all, he's on a different team, and yeah, I am worried about it because how is the game going to be officiated? Who's going to call the game? And if they roll out John Higgins, you might as well roll out the game. If they roll out, if the refs are decent and they pay attention to what State is doing, then it'll be fine. But
Michigan State didn't care about that. Underwood said they muck it up. They get game balls for fouling out.
I know, but Michigan can also shoot free throws. So they have over the course of the year, that's for sure. So I don't know. I don't know. This is the reptilian part of my brain that was just bothered completely by the Illinois game. Again, it isn't losing. The Minnesota game didn't bother me. I just saw that as a perfect storm of crazy stuff, including Eli being out, including just not being able to shoot it, including Minnesota having an uncharacteristic game. None of it at the time. Michigan's still good. They'll roll. This one bothered me. It bothered me because when I look back at it, I couldn't rationalize it in any particular way. So
look, I think that this is, you mentioned pick and roll scenarios, more 2-man game against Illinois. I would pick and roll the crap out of Hunter Dickinson in this contest. I think that all of their guys are most, like a lot of big guys, are most comfortable when they're defending and hacking in the post. Get him away from the basket. Hunter has good hands. He's a good finisher. Let's try to get him comfortable that way. Not to say that you avoid the post, but I think this is one. You're right. They don't have a Kofi Coburn, but they got bodies, Craig. That's the thing. To your point, your earlier point about Tom Izzo, he doesn't have a Kofi Coburn. He doesn't have a lot of skill. He got a lot of fouls he can throw at you.
So and they will. And
he rolls those guys out there in this war of attrition. I'm just going to pound on you with Marble. I'm going to pound on you with as much as Bingham can pound on you. I'm going to pound on you with Mady Sissoko. And see if you can stand up to that. And, Illinois wasn't able to.
I really wish Michigan had a center who can threes all the time. Like maybe, if they had Johns going at that spot right now or something like that, like it'd be really fun change up to throw out there. Because right now our backup is Austin Davis, and you kind of saw in the Illinois game, you have an extended Austin Davis when he's got a bad matchup, or like against Michigan State, they're just going to foul him every time he gets down there, right? Hunter Dickinson's one thing. He's a 75% free throw shooter. Austin Davis is not going to make his free throws. So, you don't have that answer if they start going hacking if you don't have Hunter Dickinson out there. I still can't get that worried about Michigan State. It's more kind of like, did Illinois expose something that a tournament team is going to knock Michigan out with? And I think Illinois kind of showed us a few ways that you can defend Michigan if you've got a center like Kofi, and not a lot of teams have that. So I guess that at least they kind of showed us our weakness, right? Like if we run into a team like that in the playoffs now, at least we've seen it. Juwan's going to have something planned for it, just like they had something planned after Minnesota, right? Like they're going to double Hunter Dickinson in the post. We're going to kick it right back outside, and then Michigan started raining threes for a month.
Yep. Well, it sure will be interesting. I mean, I think that Michigan is certainly a better team than Michigan State. I can't see any reason why we won't win this game and win the Big Ten
So how about this question? How about this question, guys? Let's say Michigan wins tonight. We all think they will. Do you play do you rest some guys for the Sunday matchup? What do you do Sunday?
No.
You play to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that it's a Thursday to Sunday turnaround. You got a couple days off in there. I don't think it's a big deal. They're gonna want a season sweep of Michigan State. That's something that's meaningful. So you're not going to rest guys. Also, you could keep Michigan State out of the
tournament. Right. Yeah, that's definitely incentive to go ahead and go out and play them. So we'll see how it goes this evening. The tournament hopes for Michigan State on the line, the candidacy, Tom Izzo's candidacy for Coach of the Year on the line as well. Really needs these to punctuate this outstanding effort that he's put forth this year. Do want to switch gears a little bit, guys, and have you give me your take. I think I know you guys' take on recruiting and recruiting pickups, but what's your take on Alan Bowman, this transfer quarterback from Texas Tech? I admit to thinking that they would, they would obviously be in a portal, but I thought they would have to settle for a lesser guy than an Alan Bowman. I'm curious what you guys think.
I started watching the tape, and I, first of all, can't believe Texas Tech let this guy go. And second of all, can't believe that we got him. And third, most of all, I can't understand why Michigan fans are not more excited. Go watch the Texas game, man. Go watch the Oklahoma State game. He's had 400-yard games where he's just commanding the entire offense. If they run ever, it's just a zone read or an RPO that he's running. So I mean, I can't say that that's going to translate directly to Michigan, right? But the Big 12 has some pretty decent defenses who are used to, I wouldn't say great defense, but defenses that are used to dealing with the spread, right? And he was just ripping them up.
The Big 12.
He makes weird decisions sometimes.
Who in the Big 12 has a solid defense? You got to, point them out.
No, that's solid defense. Interesting defenses. Interesting defenses where that'll show you a lot of looks and try to confuse reads is what I was trying to say. They try to make things hard on quarterbacks there.
Gotcha.
Anyone can run on the Big 12.
Yeah.
Craig, what did you think?
I watched some of the tape. I haven't watched as much as I will, but two things. One is he has a very strong arm, and he seems to be able to see the field pretty well. And those were my first two impressions, but I haven't watched whole game tape. Now, maybe you guys have. I've just been watching, highlight stuff where you obviously never have an incomplete pass. And but to me, he looks pretty good. And certainly, a couple of things are obvious. One, Michigan had to be in the portal. You can't go through a season with three quarterbacks, and one of them, Dan Villari, we don't know.
Hey, they would have beaten Ohio State with Dan Villari. Don't tell me that.
Yeah, and so they had to get a quarterback, and I'm with you, Sam. I think this was better than I ever could have imagined. Truly, from what I've seen of him. So he's started, I believe, 19 games. So you're getting a guy who started 19 games, has had some reasonable success, and I think he might be a good fit with Harbaugh. I think this might be the kind of quarterback that Harbaugh is more comfortable with than a guy, because he's not going to run the ball. You're not running read options, I don't think, with this guy. So maybe this is a perfect fit. I don't know.
My biggest criticism of his game, and I've watched 1.5 games so far of his that I've been charting, and my biggest criticism is that he really likes to release the dragon, which I don't know if that's like Texas Tech's offense is just like, okay, every fifth throw has to be downfield. But, he's way better when he's just working in the offense and he's working underneath.
Can we get Nico Collins back next year?
Yeah.
that sounds pretty good. Putting him on like the 2019 team.
Yeah, I mean, one of the weird things the weird fits with Michigan is if he sees a receiver with 2 steps or even 1 step on his cornerback, he's going to launch it. And Michigan's got some fast receivers, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see whether we can bring those down or not. But he's going to try to hit his guys deep. When it's not even the best read, there are a few touchdowns he missed because he didn't check out the backside or go down to his third read. Because as soon as he sees that, he goes. But it's a double-edged sword. He fits the balls into. You're gonna love the. Who was the Wisconsin guy who you call old tight windows?
Oh, Hornibrook.
Yeah,
Hornibrook.
Yeah. Reminds me a little bit of Hornibrook, where he's like, okay, there's 3 linebackers there, but he's facing the wrong way, so I'm going to throw it, and it works out a lot.
Yeah. So the other side of this coin, though, is the guy's been beat up in his career. I mean, you look at his list of injuries, it's like, woo. I mean, you got to admire his toughness. There is that. So for folks who haven't followed along, and Zach Shaw wrote about this, so he's in a game. I can't remember if it was Illinois or Texas. I can't remember the team, or maybe it was West Virginia, where he takes a hit, they break his rib and collapse his lung, and then he comes back less than a month later. He scrambles and recollapses the lung, and so he's out for the season. Then he comes back the next year, wins the job with a new coach, and 3 games in, he breaks his collarbone. And he comes back. I guess he starts for most of the season, but battled nagging injuries last year. That's the thing with him is it's a question of durability. The Texas Tech people say he's not the same guy he was pre-injury. Now, time will tell on that, I suppose. But it says something to me that he looked at this situation, and even if you look past Cade McNamara, who has 1 start and 400 yards under his belt, and you say I can beat that guy. Everyone is saying J.J. McCarthy's the future, right? And he chose to come to Michigan anyway. I just said something to me about the kid.
J.J. McCarthy's a freshman. I mean,
nobody's going to be scared away by a freshman.
You saw the last 2 guys from IMG.
Right. I hear you, but this is a guy with 3 years of eligibility. He's not coming in just talking about, I'm trying to see if I can get the job this year. Ideally, you finish out your career here, right? There's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of, I won't say push, but there's going to be some JJ McCarthy in the atmosphere at the very least. And he looked past that and said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to not only beat that guy, I'm going to keep him on the bench for the next 3 years.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing, right?
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just impressed by it.
It's a good thing because he feels he can do that, and maybe he can. I don't know. And it's a good thing because Michigan now has some depth at quarterback when they had none. So some depth at least.
Yeah,
you can't go into a football season with 2 quarterbacks like Michigan did last year. And they were going to be down to Dan Villari for the Ohio State game that they obviously would have won. So they needed somebody. This is, this guy probably has one of the better profiles of anybody in the portal. So, I mean, that's good, but, new guy, new system, has been beat up. I'm not putting a ton of expectations on this. It's, if you get a hit out of this is fine. But I think that realistically, he would be a middling quarterback if he plays this year, because this is his first year in a new system, and he's coming from one of the most passer-friendly systems in the country. And last year he had 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So I'm not unenthused, but also I think that realistically this isn't a transfer on the level of Shea Patterson. And Shea Patterson had some limitations. I feel like Bowman is going to have some limitations, especially this year, because it's going to be a different world for him.
Yeah, I agree. Cade McNamara is the leader in the clubhouse. Make no mistake. I mean, he has the advantage of knowledge of the system, knowledge of the personnel. I mean, it's not going to be this cinch of a thing, but if he's right, if he's healthy, and if he's a quick study, bunch of ifs, and this is you can have worse on the bench. I'll just put it that way. If he can be here what he was at Texas Tech, I think that's an upgrade over. That's more than I thought they could have gotten in the transfer portal. I thought they would be getting a guy who was unquestionably, this is pure backup guy. This guy, if he's right, and that's a big if, I think he is a potential starter if he's right, and I don't know that he is.
Well, I agree. I mean, it isn't clear right now at this moment who's going to be the starter or the finisher for Michigan football the coming year. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, we all are believers in, but he's a freshman. McNamara had one pretty good game and then got injured, but there's not much of a track record there. And so now you've got Alan Bowman, and yeah, I mean, he could theoretically be the starter on game 1 or game 10. I don't know.
All right, so I'm going to challenge you guys in the last 5 minutes. We got to split this in half.
Hockey?
I need a quick hockey assessment from Brian Cook. They're talking to Mel. Mel said he's a little concerned about the conditioning of the team coming off of the pause. He feels like they are on the way back.
They outshoot Arizona State something like 42-12, and they get a tie out of that game because Arizona State gets 1 goal, which is a Plinko deflection. It's just their snake bit. That's it. They're playing much better than their record.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan is plus 40 goals on the season, and I think that's not quite as good as Minnesota, but right with Wisconsin, I believe.
Yes.
And so, as Brian said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, they've had a lot of randomness bite them on the season. Friday night, they completely outskated Arizona State. They probably should have won by 8. They won 4-1, and the goal was a ridiculous deflection off of Arizona guy's head to go into the net, I think, net head or chest. And then,
kind of his chest. He was kind of skating in.
Okay. Then Friday night, it was, I think, 43-13 with the shots on goal. And I thought Michigan was alternatively a little impatient and a little too patient. But outside of that, it was a complete Michigan completely outskated them, and just one of those things. And again, the Arizona State goal was a double deflection, I think, that went in. So I'm not worried. I mean, they need to win a game against Minnesota this weekend, and they'll be in the NCAAs and probably get a reasonable seed. They're 13-8-1 and been unlucky.
Did Arizona State take a shot after they scored their goal?
Yeah,
because they got to 1-1. They're like taking it. Like Michigan scored like right after they did, and then Arizona State is like 1-1. Good. Let's just keep it like this.
Yeah, they only actually had, I think, 2 shots in the first goal and 3 in the third. And I don't know if they had one in the 3-on-3 looked more like the ice capades than hockey, with people just sort of skating around. But they didn't. I mean, basically, they were content to. I mean, after getting creamed the first time in Ann Arbor, I think they were very content with their tie, and you can understand that. But I think Michigan hockey is improving. I think they have a good shot.
So here's the good news. Sorry to interrupt there. Here's the good news. The Minnesota series is going to be on Fox and not on.
Big PTN.
So we can actually watch it.
Did anybody try to watch softball on the Big Ten Network Plus? It was
impossible to watch.
Impossible to watch.
It's like seizure-inducing.
Yeah, I know. I would get dizzy. I mean, you needed to have an air sickness bag to watch it, because as soon as the ball was hit, the camera started going all over the place. You had no idea what happened. It was truly dreadful.
As on the way out, Seth, why don't you tell the people about the roast of John U. Bacon?
Come by on Saturday night. It's going to be at 8:30. You got to get your tickets online. The website is right there. You just go to MGoBlog. It should be right on the top. Check out our lineup because we've been adding a whole bunch of cool comedians. Jeff Ross has offered to kind of join us and be the roast master here. So it's going to be pretty good. Aside from my jokes, which are kind of meh. But
Jeff Ross knows Bates.
Huh?
I didn't know Jeff Ross knows Bates.
He doesn't.
He doesn't, but he's seen a picture. That was enough.
He's like, why are you handing me this white piece of paper?
I got you. All right, so folks, be sure to join us for that. Be sure to join us, of course, tomorrow. We got to get out of here. Time is up on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK, the Ticket, the official voice of University of Michigan Sports, Ann Arbor, a Cumulus station.